Hey guys, it's Weedy. Today I'm going to teach you how to counterpick as a strategist. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to do when you feel like you aren't having the impact you need to and you want to shake it up. If you want to just jump straight into it or look at a particular character, the timestamps are in the description. Otherwise, let's talk about what is counterpicking. So counterpicking is basically this back and forth chess match between you and the enemy team. When you're losing, you gotta adapt to flip things in your favor. As a strategist, you'll often find yourself struggling against dive comps or overpowering ults, which can be your cue to switch things up and pick a different character. In Rivals, players can be super stubborn about switching because they lock in for comfort instead of for the win. But here's the secret advantage. When you're flexible enough to adapt while everyone else stays rigid, you're creating a massive advantage for yourself and your team. So let's dive into it. Okay, so starting with Cloak and Dagger, they have tons of healing output. So if your team's taking tons of damage, I always feel really confident in keeping my team up with Cloak and Dagger. Cloak's invis allows you to survive almost every ult if you can predict it, and I find it really helpful to avoid Bucky ult and reposition to high ground or safer angle to heal from. For their weaknesses, when the cooldowns are being exhausted on the team, I'm having to throw my orb on my tank because they're low, throw everything at them, it becomes a lot harder to survive. So if dive comes to me and I don't have any of that, I can definitely struggle. So for her ult, it can be killed by a Magneto, a Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, or even a damage boosted Namor or Punisher ult. So there's definitely a bunch of counters out there right now, and it's an ult to definitely be cautious with. Maybe ask your Magneto if you have one to shield you, and that can be really helpful. So how do you play against dive as Cloak and Dagger? Be selfish with your orb is number one. So keep your team up as much as you can with these autos and this wall, and then throw that orb down on you as soon as you start getting dove so you can start healing yourself. It's really, really hard to kill a Cloak and Dagger when they're in their orb. It's not impossible, but a lot harder. So your mouse when healing does a small amount of AoE, so try to stay close to your team, and when you use this healing, it's gonna heal you a little bit as well. Also utilize Cloak's blind to force them away. Remember that dive has cooldowns too, so if you can exhaust them or do a bit of damage, they'll often run away and you'll have time to kind of reset and figure out what you want to do next. If I was dying a lot to certain ults, maybe they have a really good Magneto that's saving ult for me and I'm not getting a ton of value, then I would probably switch to Luna next. Now, Luna isn't invincible, but she sure feels like it sometimes. She has a super strong ult that can survive through almost anything, especially when she first has her shield. You can still die a similar ult as Cloak and Dagger, however you can move, and therefore you have a little bit more control over your fate. For her strengths, in addition to insane healing output of her ult, she can also switch to that damage boost, which when combined with your DPS ults, especially Namor, can be super deadly. As for her freeze, it can be super impactful if you hit it and can allow your team to get a pick on anyone diving the backline, or for you to just have time to run away and reposition. So how do you play around dive? Playing against dive with Luna is all about positioning. Yes, you have your freeze, but if you miss it and you're in a bad place, you're just dead. So make sure to position in a way that dive can't just freely pick you off. Remember, sometimes you play into multiple dive like Venom Spider-Man or a Thor Psylocke or something like that, which she can be particularly weak against. If I was dying a lot to dive on Luna and things weren't working out, I would switch to Loki. For Loki, Loki is super unique in his playstyle and creative ability. For his strengths, his rune ability is absolutely broken and is one of the best strategist abilities to counter dive or even ults like Groot ult. His invis ability allows him to not get damaged by any ults and reposition, and you can switch between clones to reposition as well. He is super strong against chaotic comps that force you to make plays and constantly disappear. In addition to all of this, with all his clones down, he does a lot of damage too. For his weaknesses, Moon Knight and Bucky both can take advantage of Loki's clones. Moon Knight's mouse one can ricochet off clones and on to you and your teammates, doing tons of damage while also destroying Loki clones really quickly. For Bucky, he can definitely waste his hook on a clone, but what happens more often is he uses Loki clones to keep chaining his ult, which can be hard to do anything against. I also think he is weak when it comes to healing your flying teammates. It can be much trickier than all of the other supports. Lastly, if you do not play Loki a lot, his ult isn't as straightforward and can be tricky to catch which ult you need in time in the middle of a team fight. So how do you play around dive with Loki? So pop your round if you're caught off guard and always keep putting on clones so you can reposition or the enemy doesn't know which one is you. If I was playing into a Moon Knight or Bucky or dying super fast or maybe just not doing a great job with my ult, I would probably change to Invis, but also depending on what's going on and what's available, Luda and Cloak and Dagger are always great options too. Which brings me to Invis. So Invis, she's really strong in the meta right now. Her strengths, just starting there, her push and pull are so fun to play around. You can pull someone in who's trying to dash away and potentially get a pick for your team. And you can also push people off the map, which I have so much fun doing. You can even push away several ults. Pushing away strange ult is super impactful. I've had games where I have nullified every strange ult or even pushed them off the map because if they floated up to ult, they no longer have that cooldown to stop from falling off the map. You can push away Scarlet Witch ults, and I've even pushed away an Iron Man ult so that he missed where he was really trying to go. Be careful though, because once you start trying to do that, the enemy in this, if they have one, might get some ideas. So just make sure you have that double jump to get yourself back onto the map. You can save your teammates from strange ults with your shield as well, and even save your Cloak and Dagger from a Magneto ult if you time it just right. On a small side note, I always throw my pulse onto penny mines because it ticks away at it and can be easy to finish off with a few autos. As for her weaknesses, she can get Magneto ulted during ult, so always have your double jump when ulting. Moon Knight ult or damage boosted Namor ult can take you out as well. You're most vulnerable as you're popping the ult, so just keep that in mind. And also a reminder, just side note here, if you're standing on the cart and you're invisible, you do not count towards moving the cart. So make sure you just shoot an auto or two to stay kind of counting towards moving the cart. So how do you deal with dive? So she does okay against dive. Try to find a spot behind cover where you can keep your shield up to protect you and continuously heal you. Because remember, it doesn't go away. It just breaks from the enemy. It's about 300 HP. Pushing away dive can make it so they cannot close the gap between you and them with their cooldowns. I would not necessarily switch to her to counter dive, but she can survive. I've had great success with her. I've also had times where it just wasn't working and I ended up switching to Loki. With all that said about Invis, what happens if one of the strategists we have discussed thus far gets taken or maybe they get banned? There are a few niche picks that can shine in certain situations. Mantis is one of those picks. For her strength, she can output tons of damage and both damage buff herself and her teammates super easily and continuously. She's particularly strong when buffing a Widow, a Star-Lord ult, or even a Punisher turret. Her sleep is really user friendly, and overall her utility is pretty straightforward. She's the first character I learned when I started playing Rivals. Her weaknesses, her baseline healing is bad. She has very limited cooldowns that only reset when you hit critical hits or just over time. Compared to the other strategists I've talked about, she comes nowhere near close to the healing that they can do. Also, her ult is extremely killable by several ults, including a Storm ult, Magneto ult, and even a Psylocke ult, unless several of your teammates are in your ult as well. So how do you handle dive as Mantis? Mantis' sleep ability is really strong against dive, but remember, when you damage a slept enemy, they wake up. So act wisely once you have them slept and communicate with your team so that you guys can take them out and they don't just escape. Also, make sure to activate your damage buff, as it gives you healing over time, which can be the difference in surviving dive or dying, as well as giving you the ability to severely damage them, resulting in them running away. Mantis is not really strong in the current meta, but can definitely be successful in triple support or situations where the stronger strategists aren't available. For Rocket, Jeff, and Adam, you want to be very careful with these picks, as you're missing out on a second defensive ult, which makes them all very weak when running double support. I'm going to touch on these three really briefly. For Jeff, you are missing strong utility, and especially as you climb, his ult becomes very hit or miss. As players become more proficient in their roles, they become more skilled at avoiding ults like his. If you are a great Adam, you can have tons of impact, but if you are a weak Adam, you can provide little to no value. There's no doubt that his soul bond is absolutely broken when used correctly, as your team can basically tank through high damage ults like Psylocke or Star-Lord. However, he lacks the consistent healing that other strong strategists have. Adam doesn't have any way to escape dive, so once a soul bond is up, you need to be positioned well to survive until the next one, or your cooldowns recover, or you're basically out of luck. Which leads us to Rocket. For Rocket, his ult combos really well with other ults, especially DPS ults, and his team up can be really powerful when utilized correctly. Though his res can seem great at first, and it can be, just keep in mind its placement as down off and seek out to destroy it. Consider recalling it when you lose a team fight so your teammate doesn't get res just to die and get staggered. And make sure when you need it, it's actually in range. In my opinion, in a double support comp without the team up, there is really no reason to play Rocket, and your abilities are likely more burden than help. Well, that's all I have for how to counterpick as a strategist. If you guys have any specific scenarios that you want advice on, comment below and I'd be happy to let you know my thoughts. If you want a more in-depth guide on any particular strategist or anything strategist related, let me know. Otherwise, thank you guys and see you in the next video.